Welcome to Shadowing English.
Listen, learn, and improve your English effortlessly. Speak like a native.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome once more to Shadowing English. This episode, I will be discussing the superiority of brief study periods over extended ones. Put simply, frequent, shorter study blocks are more effective than infrequent, lengthy sessions. A common misconception among many students is the reverse. They feel that dedicating 3 hours to study today demonstrates genuine commitment. They might think devoting an entire Saturday to learning signifies their utmost effort. However, in the context of genuine life and effective learning, this approach frequently proves ineffective. My aim today is to clarify why. True to form, I shall employ straightforward English, offer numerous illustrations, and promptly clarify any challenging vocabulary. Therefore, simply unwind. There is no need to hurry. Just absorb the information. Right. Allow me to begin with an anecdote. Envisage this scenario. It is Saturday morning. You awaken slightly later than your customary time. The dwelling is still. You feel a sense of tranquility. You internally declare, "Today I will finally achieve it. Today I shall dedicate 5 hours to studying English." 5 hours represents a considerable duration. It is neither a mere 10 minutes nor 20 minutes. This period accounts for almost half of your waking day. At this juncture, you experience motivation, exhilaration, and a sense of strength. You feel prepared to proceed, filled with self-pride. You consider yourself earnest in your English pursuits, disciplined, and anticipate a fruitful day. You arrange all necessary items, opening your English textbook, launching YouTube, and selecting a podcast. You might even prepare a cup of tea or coffee. Initially, the experience is positive. The initial 10 minutes are perfectly acceptable. The first 20 minutes proceed smoothly. The first 30 minutes feel adequate. You grasp the majority of the content, thinking, "Yes, I comprehend this." Yet, a subtle shift begins to occur. It is not abrupt or striking, but rather a quiet transition. Your mental state gradually becomes burdensome. You perceive yourself as sluggish, fatigued, and less attentive. The sensation of being fresh and energetic eludes you. Your gaze traverses the page, but your intellect fails to engage. You register the podcast, yet the verbal content does not persist. You peruse a sentence, only to reread it repeatedly, not due to its complexity, but because your concentration has dissipated. Your mental focus, the direction of your thoughts, has vanished. You momentarily glance at your phone. Your thoughts drift to lunchtime, or perhaps unread messages, or an event from the previous week. Your physical presence remains, your book open, but your mind has departed. This represents a crucial juncture. You continue the times of studying, but you are no longer times acquiring knowledge *. Studying entails appearing occupied. Learning, conversely, signifies a transformation within your brain. And herein lies the underlying issue. Prolonged study periods frequently persist even after the process of learning has ceased. Allow me to reiterate this. Extensive study sessions often carry on past the point where genuine learning concludes. You persevere simply because you allocated 5 hours, reluctant to abandon your commitment. You are unwilling to perceive yourself as weak. Consequently, you exert effort, compelling yourself to carry on. However, when learning transforms into an act of forceful persistence, the brain disengages. It ceases to absorb fresh information. Extended sessions convey an impression of earnestness, which constitutes the primary drawback of such periods. They appear disciplined and commendable. One can proudly declare, "I studied for 5 hours today." Internally, however, your brain experienced something entirely different. Your brain's recollection is one of fatigue, sluggishness, and difficulty. This gives rise to a deceptive sense of advancement. Deceptive progress indicates a feeling of productivity without any lasting retention in your long-term memory. Long-term memory refers to information retained for days, weeks, or years, rather than mere minutes. You might have perused numerous pages or viewed many videos only to find most of the content vanished by the following day. This can be perplexing, as you exerted significant effort, dedicated time, and expended energy on a challenging task. Yet, effort by itself offers no guarantee of learning. Therefore, why does the brain cease to absorb information? The reason is that your brain is not an inanimate mechanism. It functions as a biological system. It comprises numerous interdependent components. Optimal brain learning occurs when it perceives safety, curiosity, lightness, and engagement. Prolonged study gradually erodes these sensations. Curiosity is the first to fade. You lose the inclination to discover further. Following this, energy dwindles, and then focus dissipates. All that ultimately remains is the passage of time, and time devoid of concentration and attention fails to facilitate learning. The detrimental effects of extended sessions are not overt. Nothing overtly fractures or collapses. Instead, your brain subtly internalizes a perilous lesson. English demands too much from me. The next occasion you contemplate studying, you experience reluctance, a distinct aversion to commencing. This is resistance. You sense weariness even before you start. This explains why many learners forfeit their momentum. Momentum is the inherent impetus that propels you forward, not in a single day, but gradually, week after week. They frequently express, "I'm unsure why I ceased," or "I don't know why I stopped." Now, the explanation is clear. A further concealed drawback of lengthy study periods is the presence of pressure. Pressure signifies a powerful internal compulsion to perform effectively, even when physically or mentally fatigued. This pressure does not originate from your textbook or instructor. Rather, it stems from expectation, the belief in what times must times transpire. That is expectation. When you schedule an extended study period, your brain begins to register this pressure before you even commence. As you settle, thoughts like, "This needs to be productive," or "This must succeed," or "I cannot squander this time," or "I must achieve results today," cross your mind. While these sentiments may appear earnest and conscientious, an internal shift occurs within the brain. The brain constricts. It becomes taut, stressed, and negatively hypervigilant, rather than serene and receptive. Acquiring a language necessitates a relaxed cerebrum. You require a state of calmness, receptiveness, and ease. In a relaxed state, the brain is capable of discerning patterns, retaining sounds, and forging connections between concepts. When tense, the brain merely strives to endure the activity. Right. Let's now discuss brief sessions. A short session implies a duration of 10, 15, or 20 minutes, nothing more. Numerous students contend that such a time frame is insufficient and cannot yield results. However, this perception is erroneous. Brief sessions are effective due to the brain's mechanism for memory retention. When your brain registers that an activity will be short, it feels secure. There is an absence of perceived threat or tension. Your brain reassures itself, "All right, I am capable of this." It will conclude shortly, as fear is absent. Your brain remains receptive, prepared to absorb new data. This constitutes the ideal condition for language acquisition. Concise sessions foster confidence. Each time you complete a brief session, your brain internalizes that English is manageable, achievable, and repeatable. This cultivates self-reliance. You develop faith in your own capabilities. Extended sessions frequently undermine self-assurance, whereas shorter sessions gradually establish it. Brief periods safeguard your energy and mental fortitude. Your energy reserves are finite. If you deplete them entirely in a single lengthy session, you will have none remaining for the subsequent day. Short sessions preserve your energy by ensuring you cease before exhaustion sets in. This point is paramount. Concluding prematurely instructs your brain that you finished while still feeling positive. The brain naturally seeks to replicate pleasant experiences. Very well. And now for a novel concept seldom discussed. I refer to it as the next time effect. What does this entail? It denotes that your emotional state upon concluding a study period influences how you approach your subsequent session. Let me reiterate. Your emotional disposition at the completion of a study session determines your sentiments for the ensuing one. Halting when fatigued makes the next session feel burdensome. Conversely, ceasing while still energized renders the next session feel effortless. Brief sessions cultivate a favorable conclusion, a positive and agreeable end. This positive culmination entices you back the following day. Lengthy sessions, however, frequently culminate in complete exhaustion, an intense weariness, and this profound tiredness repels you. Right. Let us now contrast two distinct learners. Student A dedicates 3 hours to study once weekly. Student B engages in 15 minutes of study daily. After a month, Student A experiences fatigue and guilt, perceiving their efforts as inadequate. Student B, meanwhile, feels composed and consistent. To be consistent means to perform an action repeatedly without interruption. Student B benefits from greater interaction with English and increased exposure to the language, resulting in more listening, more repetition, and enhanced memory. Many students aspire to be exceptional, attempting arduous and extensive tasks. They seek study days that feel heroic. Nevertheless, language acquisition is not contingent on monumental efforts. It is founded on habit, an action performed automatically, without extensive deliberation. That defines a habit. Brief sessions cultivate this habit, whereas prolonged sessions primarily foster motivation. Motivation is transient. Habit endures. Once English becomes habitual, you cease to question, "Ought I to study today?" You simply proceed, much like brushing your teeth. All right. Let's now address memory, which is the faculty for retaining information. Your brain requires intervals. An interval refers to a pause between periods of learning. When you study, then cease, and later return, your brain continues processing in the background, operating subtly beyond your conscious perception. Extended sessions lack these vital intervals. Brief sessions, conversely, naturally generate such pauses. These intervals assist your brain in organizing information, affording it time to structure and arrange details. For instance, if you hear the sentence, "I was running late this morning today," and then hear it again tomorrow, your brain will register, "Ah, I recognize this." This sensation of recognition fortifies memory. The perception of familiarity upon re-encountering information significantly enhances your memory. That is recognition. Right then, let us now discuss the proper application of brief study periods. While potent, these sessions are effective only when utilized correctly. A short session is not designed for rapid multitasking. Instead, its purpose is to accomplish a single, minor task proficiently. The paramount guideline is concentration. Your attention should be entirely devoted to one item, without division. When your focus is fragmented, the process of learning becomes arduous. Therefore, during a brief session, you must select precisely one action. You do not simultaneously listen, read, and check your mobile phone. You do not open multiple applications. You avoid switching between activities. You do not engage in multitasking. Instead, you opt for a singular, straightforward action. You either listen, read, or articulate a repetition aloud. That suffices. Your brain processes information through association, which involves linking novel data to existing memories. When you undertake numerous disparate activities concurrently, these crucial associations are disrupted. For instance, if you listen to English whilst simultaneously perusing messages or contemplating work, Your brain registers the English input but is unable to process, comprehend, or retain it. Consequently, the auditory information simply enters and exits your ears, leaving no lasting impression. Concentrated learning, though unhurried, is profound, robust, and enduring. Brief sessions prioritize quality over rapidity. Now, allow me to provide a few straightforward illustrations. The first example. You devote 10 minutes to listening to a podcast. You settle down, breathe, and simply listen. You do not halt after each sentence, nor do you translate every single word. You merely absorb the audio. This constitutes a concentrated session. The second example, you read a single, short paragraph. You peruse it at a leisurely pace, noting the vocabulary. You observe the words carefully, without hastening. This is a concentrated session. The third example, you articulate a single sentence repeatedly. You enunciate it slowly, then naturally, and finally with emotion. This, too, is a focused session. Although your output may seem minimal, your brain absorbed a significant amount. Some students may now experience guilt, equating this approach with idleness. They might remark, "I only listened for 10 minutes," or "I merely read one page." However, learning is not measured by the number of pages, but by transformation. Transformation implies a gradual, incremental alteration within your brain. If your brain underwent a change, the session was effective. Thus, brief sessions are far from indolent. You are not shirking effort. Brief sessions are deliberate, undertaken with a distinct objective. Right. We now arrive at one of the pivotal concepts within this entire broadcast. Cease, while the activity still feels effortless. This is profoundly significant. Most students discontinue their studies only after feeling exhausted or when their concentration wanes entirely. This, however, imparts the incorrect lesson to the brain, implying that learning equates to exhaustion, that it signifies profound fatigue. Instead, you want your brain to perceive learning as light, secure, and achievable. Therefore, you conclude early. You stop when you still feel agreeable and mentally lucid. Initially, this sensation may strike you as peculiar. It might feel somewhat uncharacteristic and novel. You might ponder, "Well, I feel fine, so I could do more." Indeed, should times do more. Yet, pausing prematurely is not a sign of weakness. It is a strategic approach, an intelligent scheme for attaining an objective. By stopping early, your brain retains a positive recollection of the session, remembering it as agreeable and pleasurable. The brain internalizes that the task was not arduous, nor did it demand considerable energy. Consequently, commencing the next session feels effortless, devoid of a burdensome or stressful sensation. This establishes a potent cycle, a pattern that reiterates consistently. An easy beginning, a positive feeling, an early conclusion, and then a fresh start. And thus, the following day, you are inclined to revisit it. Learning persists in the brain even after you cease studying. Right. Here is a particularly fascinating point. The learning process does not halt when you conclude your study. Your brain carries on its work in the background, operating silently beyond your consciousness. By stopping prematurely, your brain is afforded the space to process information. It gains the room and time to organize and retain data. Conversely, if you study until exhaustion, the brain lacks this essential space and time. It is simply too fatigued. Concluding early provides the brain with scope for integration. All right, dear listeners, let me state this unequivocally. You do not require additional time. You already possess sufficient time. What is needed is improved timing. The judicious decision of when and for how long to engage in an activity. Brief sessions are not indicative of weakness. They are a mark of intelligence. They show deference to your brain, your daily routine, and your energy levels. They collaborate with you, rather than opposing you. If your aim is for English to remain with you for years, beyond just a few weeks, and if you desire learning to feel organic instead of arduous, then opt for short sessions, daily, even on your busiest or most fatigued days. For small, consistent daily steps subtly transform everything. Thank you profoundly for tuning in to another installment of Shadowing English. I'm Alex, and until our next encounter, continue taking those modest steps, engage in daily brief sessions, and maintain faith in your capabilities.